With millions of software developer roles on offer, the software industry promises to be one of the most stable job markets in the next few years. But that doesn't mean it's easy to get a software engineering job, does it? Unfortunately, amongst all the hype and attention placed on the software industry, it's easier to overlook the fact that software development isn't an easy skill to master. It requires immense concentration, time, and dedication. And only then candidates find themselves in a position to challenge the best positions in the market. Every year, thousands of candidates apply for different job roles, but not everyone gets selected. In fact, software developer interviews are hard to crack because the field is so far stretched. Therefore, it creates problems for young and aspiring graduates when they try to land their first job. First, handling interview rejection isn't easy. If you've seen my previous videos, you know I've talked about how to prepare for job interviews, how to develop a portfolio, and any other practices that can lead you to preparing for or finding a software development job. However, we have never talked about what to do when you get rejected in an interview. In this video, I'll talk to you about how you can handle rejection productively and learn from them to have a better chance of succeeding in the next interview. But first, let's talk about why handling rejection isn't that easy. First, interviewing preparation takes a lot of effort. For a start, when you apply for a new job, it's not just the 1 to 2 day affair. In fact, many candidates prepare for months before even getting a job interview. It includes tedious processes like building skills, preparing for interview questions, making a targeted portfolio, gaining essential general knowledge about the software industry, and much more. Then you put in extra effort to look good and confident when you answer questions in front of the interviewer. So naturally, when you prepare so hard for an interview and you don't get your desired result, it can bring you down both physically and mentally and also demotivate you to your core. Next, your peers are getting offers. It's possible that your friends or colleagues may have applied for the same job role and they got selected but you didn't. This can be a devastating scenario because you might have worked equally or harder for that job role. In such a situation, it's definitely not easy to keep your head high and come out smiling. However, that's how life works time to time, especially if you want to be in the software industry. Next, every rejection leaves you with something to learn. Now, this might be hard to digest, but look at the bright side of things. Every rejection will leave you with something new to learn. You will realize that your shortcomings and the areas to focus on in the next interviews. For example, you might have the best technical skills for the job, but you probably didn't fit the kind of persona the company is looking for. Or maybe you weren't clear enough in communication of your experience and skills to the interviewer. In every case, make sure to identify the gaps so that you can work on them for future interviews. One of the mistakes that software developers can make is to brush aside bad interviews and not reflect on what they could have done better. Don't make this mistake. Next, you need to learn how to control emotions. When you're dealing with rejection, it's an emotional time, so you'll find yourself surrounded by negative thoughts and possibly the urge to quit the field or give up on job searching. This is where you must be mentally strong to overpower your emotions. Now, it's incredibly hard, but a few hacks can make it easier. Firstly, avoid thinking about the rejection in the interview and focus more on your areas to improve. But when I say focus on these mistake areas, I don't mean that you should punish yourself for saying the wrong things in the interview. Instead, think how you would answer the questions differently next time. So instead of grieving and getting emotional over your rejection, take out a paper and pen and write down your flaws in the interview. Write down the suggestions that the interview might have given you. This allows you to quantify the problem and present things more realistically in front of you. So when you look at these flaws, you'll understand that an emotional response will only make things worse. And then you can start fixing those flaws. The next important thing is to remember that you're not alone. Rejection is a common thing in tech. In fact, many top software developers and programmers went through rejection at some point in their lives. When you learn about the normalcy of interview rejections, it can reduce your stress because you're not alone in dealing with a rejection. Given the competitive nature of the industry, every job role gets thousands of applications and very few make it to the interview stage. Of those, only one gets selected. So it's important to look at the positive side of things. At least you managed to reach the interview stage, and you beat on the majority of candidates to get there. Next, don't underestimate personal references. Remember that even when tech jobs require high skill and expertise, you cannot deny the value of personal relations and references to a job. While you might be a perfect candidate for the job, someone else got it just because they had a reference that you did not. It's not justified that you punish yourself for not having enough contacts in your desired company. However, it leaves you with one important lesson. Start making quality contacts and leads. Whether you know someone from the industry or if it's just a friend who just landed a job, use those contacts to land an interview or try for another job. If someone at a company can vouch for your skills and ability to work in teams, A hiring manager is going to be more willing to take a chance on you than a stranger that was identified through the interview process. Next, understand that recruiters could ignore you at times. Getting ghosted is a common thing in the software industry. At times, you might have had a killer interview and come back with high hopes, but suddenly you've been ghosted without any apparent reason. You may notice that the recruiter stops contacting you and stops responding to your messages. That's okay. Recruiters tend to ignore candidates when they find a replacement. So don't be disheartened and focus on the next interview. This time, it's not your fault. It's just the way things are sometimes. Next, ask the recruiter for feedback. It doesn't matter if you don't get the job. You can always ask the recruiter for feedback about what went wrong. Contact the employer through email or text and ask what happened and what went wrong in the interview. Tell them you want to improve on your weaknesses and you're willing to work harder in the coming interviews. But remember, the recruiters don't always tell you straight out what went wrong. For instance, if you weren't good at the technical things, they won't tell you that you were incompetent. Instead, they will tell you that they hired someone more experienced with more in-depth knowledge about the subject. Moreover, asking for feedback can also get you on the good side of the recruiter. So they may remember you whenever there are other opportunities at the company, or they could refer you to some other job opening in the industry. Please like this video if you found it useful, and consider subscribing if you want to see similar content in the future. See you in the next video.